It's kind of a loaded question, but how much of an impact on your father's life did this first Frankenstein film have?
Well, it was his 81st film, and no one had seen the first 80, so it made quite an impact. It made it was a pivotal difference both in his personal and professional life.
And did he like the character? Because there's conflicting. Obviously, he endured all the makeup and had trouble walking as the character and so forth. But did he like ultimately the character that he played in the movie?
Oh well, I mean, of course he did. He often, with tongue-in-cheek, referred to him as his best friend. And he decided, and it was his decision only, to play the creature 3 times because he felt that the roles, scripts, had come to the end of the proper conclusion. That he felt that from there on that the creature would become the brunt of bad jokes, bad scripts, and he didn't want to be a part of that. He felt he had an indebtedness to and a certain respect for the creature and what that part had done for him, and he didn't want to be a part of riding the horse into the ground. He just felt very grateful for all the difference that role made in his life.
And he played it 3 times. Does anyone know how many Frankenstein appearances there were in Universal Films in the 30s and 40s? There were 7. 7 films. Boris Karloff played in the first 3. And then Bela Lugosi played in one of them, and Lon Chaney Jr. in one of them, and Glenn Strange in 3 of them. And then they stopped making them, sadly. What do you think your dad gained from playing Frankenstein as a performer and actor, and respect among his peers?
Well, a paycheck.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
Overnight stardom after 20 years. He gained obviously a marketability as an actor and a star that he had never had and probably never would have had any other way. He gained a status in his profession, a voice in his profession. It allowed him to speak out on behalf of other actors as one of the forming members of the Screen Actors Guild, which was one of the things he did of which he was most proud. His card number was number 9. He remained a working actor from that point forward for the rest of his life. He made a total of 170 some odd films. He had a huge body of radio work. He was worked on Broadway in many plays. He did. He won a Grammy for How the Grinch Stole Christmas. He did a lot of children's recordings. So it enabled him to have not only a very long but a very broad career, and it established him as a working actor with great depth and breadth of ability and character.
Thank you. And Boris Karloff, just as Bela Lugosi was in Frankenstein, Boris Karloff is still the best Frankenstein, right?
We all know who the best Frankenstein was.
Bela Lugosi.
And we know who the best Dracula was.
Okay, Mr. Warren.
Aside from these people to my right, I think I'm the only person here who met Boris Karloff. And that was on the set of his last 4 movies, those terrible New Mexican pictures. But even then, all the crew treated him with incredible awe and respect. There was one point when he's doing a scene, and he gasped and fell against the wall. Everybody on the set went and came forward to help him. Then we realized he was acting. And he was a little annoyed that everybody came forward because, after all, there he was, a working actor. He got up out of a wheelchair and put aside an oxygen tank. And when he did that, he lost 20 years right before your eyes. did a great performance even in those bad films. Another thing about his being always interested in the welfare of other actors, he was talking to everyone on the set about how much he disliked the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences because he knew what it was when it was first created, which was a voice for the studios against everybody else, against all the workers. That means the actors and the people working in the crews. The Academy wasn't set up for them, it was set up for the studios and against them. It was an anti-union organization to begin with, and that still made his blood boil. I mean, he was very angry talking about this. He said, people always wondered, why didn't he get an honorary Oscar? More than once he was offered one and he turned it down.
Very interesting. Ted, where do you think Frankenstein, the character, falls in the annals of cinema history, as Boris Karloff plays him in this film?
I think actually even as high as anything in movie history, you know, he'd probably go equal with Mickey Mouse. And I'm not dismissing Frankenstein, the image. Again, as early as I think 32 or 33, the big square-topped, big-booted character is appearing in, you know, Mickey Mouse cartoons, which is, I mean, that's like appearing on the Super Bowl nowadays. I mean, that was like the height of media awareness. It's so, it's hard to imagine a time when you didn't have that image. And the Karloff image of it is probably the best performance because he had the benefit of, and I'm paraphrasing him, he had the benefit of being first. He was always very polite to his fellow actors, and he knew there were other people who did the role after him. But he had two really great movies, the first one and the second one, and the third was pretty good. And he recognized rightly, okay, after that it's just going to go downhill. So where does it stand? At the top. Where else, Scott?
Frankenstein and Dracula at the top. Craig,
Yes.
do you think Jack Pierce could have created a more, it's a loaded question, a more recognizable character than he did with Karloff in this Frankenstein film?
Well, at this point, no, it's impossible. I mean, it's one of the, it's like the, you know, Abraham Lincoln's head on whichever coin it's on. I forget. The dime, is it? Don't hit me. But I want to say something about that makeup because I think as much of its inspired quality is due to the fact that it does not inundate or disguise or, you know, do anything but play a supporting role to Boris Karloff. And all makeup artists I know, probably Shane agrees with me about this, Frankenstein's monster is Boris Karloff. And what he brought to it, his physicality. He had a beautiful face. His face is sensitive, and yet somehow threatening. And it's again, one is sort of lost for words, how it affects you. Those of you who haven't seen it, I can't believe there's anybody, know, but those who have seen it know that the introduction to the character is unique and in a cinematic sense, innovative. There are three sort of smash cuts, closer. The final one is within his face. It not only fills the screen, it's practically into his eyes. And I think people must have ducked out of the theater at that point because it's one of the most galvanizing faces that was ever seen in film since Lon Chaney had his mask pulled off in the Phantom of the Opera. And I asked someone I know saw it when he was a kid. It was someone you'll know and who I think we all love, Dick Van Dyke. I worked with him once. We got talking about movies. And he said, oh yeah, he said, I walking home from that one, he says, I walked down the middle of the street. He says, because I couldn't be sure he was in the bushes on that side or that side.